Oh, there's a couple of these. All right. So my name's Tino. I am a men's coach. I help guys really overcome their shame and step into their strength. And basically what that means is really help guys believe in themselves again, kind of overcome any limiting beliefs, any negative challenges that maybe they've had in the past where they associated they made a statement like that's who they are. And my role is really just to support them in getting back to their authentic selves because a large part of my story was I was in the same place. And I feel like that kind of gives me um, a unique relationship to just support these men because I've been where they've been. And sometimes I still can fall back into that, but just helping guys really empower themselves and feel like they're walking the path that, God has given them and they're finding their purpose, really. On a scale from 1 to 10, how confident do you feel today? I would say today I'd probably be like an 8, 8.5, something like that. Um, Reason being, I don't know, I feel like I've done a lot of work on myself. And to be honest, like ever since I've done this kind of work, I don't really have a lot of stress. And that kind of sign, I mean, that's not true. There's definitely some stress, but I just put my faith in God and I put my faith in what I'm doing, and I don't really worry about too much in terms of like how's this gonna look or how am I gonna show up this way. I used to, but I don't know. Recently, I've just been feeling pretty good. So 2026 starting out pretty solid. There we go. What does being a strong man mean to you? Yeah, that's a good question. Um, and that's kind of been the search that I've been on really ever since I was a kid, like figuring out what that means and how to be that. Because I think a lot of men, and this is the problem that I've run into, a lot of my clients run into, they're searching for that archetype, how to be a strong man, but they don't know how to embody that. They don't know how to be that. They don't know how to feel that, mostly because they were never modeled that. So either their father wasn't in the picture or their father was in the picture, but he just simply wasn't giving them the guidance or the structure or you know, the the parenting, the nurturing that maybe they needed, which is more my story. Like, I love my father. We have a great relationship now. But growing up, I had a little bit of resentment towards him because there wasn't a lot of that closeness. There wasn't a lot of that, like, hey, son, like, here's how you do this, or here's how we go. It was kind of always, um, I just went to work with him and he kind of just expected me to take over the business. It's very traditional Italian family. Like, you just kind of, not a lot of emotional talking, just like go to work, have like be there and don't complain about it. So it was difficult at first to try to come from that because I was very shy as a kid. I was very insecure as a kid, and I felt very insecure about being a man. Like I had no idea what masculinity and femininity and self improvement and all the purpose and all that stuff was a very foreign terms to me when I was a kid. So as a result, I actually started looking at mentors, and that's when I started to do my search, different books and programs and coaches and just other men that I looked up to that I wanted some guidance from. So to me, a strong man is really just a man that embodies his truth and who he is, and he expresses himself unapologetically. He's living in alignment with, well, my belief is he's living in alignment with God's will, but he's a man that's living in his purpose, a man who's uh, strong in his values and his beliefs, and he's trying to make an impact. So that's what it means to be a strong man to me. Do you have fears around being fully seen authentically? If so, what are they? Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's kind of the place that I'm coming to now is um, I used to always think that like a strong man meant, oh, he was fearless. He just went into battle and nothing fazed him. He was a guy that just couldn't be rocked. And now I'm realizing like that's not true at all. Because some of the most successful people that we know, they have fear, they have doubts, they have insecurities, they have limitations. Like everybody, we're not perfect. So what I'm realizing is courage is such a huge part of the process. And that's something I'm committing myself to more this year is just being more courageous, speaking my truth, whether that's controversial or not, like just being very unapologetic with what I believe in and what I think. Um, so yeah, I definitely have fear around it because there's a lot of pieces of my, either my personality or my opinions, maybe my values that people just simply don't know because, they never asked. So I'm somebody that has a lot to say naturally, but sometimes I'll kind of reserve that to myself because I'm like, well, I don't want them to think this about me, or I don't want to get on somebody's bad side, or, I don't want to cause some kind of conflict, which is one of my issues when I was young. Was like, I would never, ever speak up. So I would be the guy that like was kind of a chameleon. I was like friends with everybody. Um, but that's kind of the double-edged sword. Like I was with everybody and friends with everybody, but no one really like knew who I was fully. Like they saw pieces of me, but they didn't see all of me. And as a result, like they say, if you're liked by everybody, you're loved by no one. You're also hated by no one too. So it's like I was always avoiding being the guy that, was disliked. So that was always a big challenge for me. What's something you used to think was a weakness, but now you see as a strength? That's a good question. What do I think was a weakness? Yeah, honestly, I mean, the whole artistic side of me I thought was like a weakness before. Um, More so like just like the creative things and like um, especially when it comes to like music and content creation and just different ideas that I have. I guess I'd describe myself as more of like a sensitive type of person. Now, I used to think that that was like weak as hell. It was like, oh, dude, sensitive. A guy is sensitive. Like, what, you crying every day? Like, no, that's not what I mean. Sensitive in terms of like I can just understand like a person's. I just have naturally more empathy. Like I understand a person's pain. I can kind of understand where they're coming from. I'm a naturally very good listener, which is why I think makes me such a good coach because I can actually hear these guys out. I used to think that that was a weakness because I was like, whoa, that can sometimes like build up in me and then I get emotional or like I never thought that that was appropriate to even express that or share that. But I'm learning, especially with my clients, like I'm super blessed and thankful to have the ones I have because I've been able to be fully authentic with them. I actually ran my first in-person retreat last year. And the whole time we're like cracking jokes, telling stories, having fun, all while we're learning and growing and I'm facilitating and teaching them. It's like I didn't have to hide anything and they were still there. They got a ton of value. They had great transformations. And that taught me a lot about just leadership and like showing up authentically. Because I'm like, I don't have to be anybody else but me. And I'll still get respect, and I'll still get taken seriously and I'll still be seen as someone who's significant, especially in the eyes of men, because that was always something I was chasing. So, um, yeah, that's what I thought was a weakness. I almost forgot the question there. Beautiful. What advice would you give men who are struggling with confidence? That's a good question. Um, well, really, this kind of gets into my process a little bit, but like I've always said that confidence is the way that Alex Hormozy defines it is very similar to how I define it. It's like the undeniable evidence that you are who you say you are. So if you're a guy that has evidence, that's what I call like your actions that you've taken, the results that you've gotten. If you have so much evidence that shows you that you're not this type of person, you're going to believe that you're not confident. Not because it's true, but that's simply just because that's what you've experienced. So I would say part one is exposing that the whole unconfident person that you see yourself as or the incompetent man that you think you are is not true. So it's first just exposing that as a lie and realizing that like your confidence is your natural state. Like that's who you're supposed to be. And also having clarity. Like, I always think that's the first step. Like before you can really be confident, you have to be clear. What do you want? Where do you want to be? Who really are you? Because then you're going to start to have opportunities to prove that. And that's where I think the courage piece comes into play. Because after then you're like, all right, well now I have opportunities to take new action in this direction. And you really start to like prove it to yourself. Like, yeah, this is actually what I'm about. So if a guy is struggling with confidence, I would say you got to really expose those lies, those stories, and those narratives, understand where they come from, and then at the same time, stack new evidence in the area that you know that you want to walk in. So kind of like a two-parter, but that's how I look at it. Any final thoughts? I just think it's important to talk about like what you're passionate in and what lights you up, because there's so many people and I see this every day. So part of what I do on the side is I'll drive Lyft, like Uber, and I have a lot of passengers and I ask them questions. I'm like, hey, like what do you do? Like what do you get into? I create conversations, and a lot of people just don't like their life. They just don't. And they have whatever it might be, they have excuses or they have situations that they don't feel like they can move forward with something, and it's just really sad. And I I think it's really important to just be someone who takes that leap of faith, whatever the hell it is, whatever you want to do, because there's just so many people living with regret and living like, oh, I wish I would have done this when I was younger. Even young people, I drove a lot of young people that talk like that. I'm like, dude, you're not even 30 years old yet, man. Like, you didn't even live yet. So there's just a lot of people that are just so afraid to just take a chance and, bet on themselves, whether that be starting a business or just leveling up their career, just going for that girl that you think is unattainable, whatever it might be. Um, just got to take more risks and like take more chances. And I say that to myself too, because that's been one of the biggest reasons I'm here today. So, yeah.